9:09 a.m. Gulf of Aden. A pirate mothership closed to within 260 yards of USS Gonzalez. Two smaller attack boats were already splitting wide. One to port, one swinging out toward Cape St. George. A K-47's up, RPG on a shoulder. Engines screaming across open water at roughly 15 knots. Then the sea changed in 1 second. The .50 caliber mounts opened up. M16 fire answered from the stranded RIB in the gap. A tracer punched into a fuel drum strapped to the mothership's deck. First came the flash, then the fire, then a full column of black smoke and orange flame rising hard into the morning sky. This was not a warning shot. This was the moment a pirate attack collapsed into chaos under the guns of 2 US warships. And if you want more real-world naval stories told with timing, tactics, and pressure step by step, subscribe to the channel now. Because what happened in the next few minutes turned a routine boarding operation into a close-range fight nobody on board would forget. 8:52 a.m. Gulf of Aden. A contact appeared off USS Gonzalez at roughly 3,180 yards, moving at just under 14 knots. Too steady for drifting traffic, too deliberate to ignore. From the bridge, the shape looked wrong almost immediately. One large diesel-powered mothership, 2 smaller attack boats riding behind it on tow lines. Low in the water, narrow, fast-looking even before they were cut loose. That was the first problem. Fishing boats in these waters do strange things. Smugglers do stranger things. But legitimate crews do not usually drag 2 gasoline boats behind them like spare weapons waiting to be deployed. Still, suspect did not mean hostile. Not yet. The Gulf of Aden was crowded with traffic, false alarms, and vessels that looked dangerous right up until the moment they turned out to be tired fishermen with bad equipment and worse luck. In waters like these, misreading one radar return can turn caution into a diplomatic mess before noon. The officer of the deck passed the report to CIC, bearings updated, speed checked again, range falling by the second. The answer was procedure, clear, discipline, routine. At 08:57 hours, the RIB launched from Gonzalez with a 5-man boarding team aboard, a rubber boat, small outboard, rifles, body armor, standard kit for a visit that was expected to last maybe 18 minutes from approach to departure. Ahead of them was open water and a vessel that might still be nothing. Behind them, Gonzalez held the contact on radar and tightened the picture. Above them, an MH-60 Seahawk was already in the air, orbiting in Overwatch. At that moment, nothing had exploded, nobody had fired, but the geometry was already becoming dangerous. 9:01 a.m. Gulf of Aden. The MH-60 Seahawk finally got the angle radar could not give. The FLIR image came back clean. Not nets, not cargo, weapons. An RPG rested along the gunnel. A K-47s lay across laps. At least 11 armed men were visible in the thermal picture, maybe 12. The tow lines to the 2 attack boats were rigged for fast release. 1 pull, 2 boats free, 3 separate threats on the water. That changed everything. Inside CIC, the contact was reclassified from suspect to confirmed hostile. The bridge called the RIB at once. Return to ship. Come about now. The coxswain acknowledged, swung the bow, pushed the throttle forward. Then the outboard coughed once, twice, and died. No power, no movement, no second chance. The starter kept grinding, but the engine would not catch. Fuel issue, salt water in the line, vapor lock. It did not matter. 5 American sailors were now drifting in open water with a hostile force closing from ahead and 2 warships holding fire behind them. Then the surface picture split apart. At about 1,350 yards, the mothership changed heading. The 2 attack boats cut loose almost at the same time. Their gasoline engines kicked alive and both peeled away, one left, one right, opening the approach by nearly 400 yards in seconds. A short burst cracked across the water, not aimed well, not decisive, but enough. Then a loose fuel can on one attack boat flashed and popped into a brief secondary fire, small but sharp, a warning of how little control remained in this fight. Now the trap was visible, and in the next minutes, it was going to burn. 9:08 a.m. Gulf of Aden. The distance had collapsed to roughly 270 yards. That is close enough to see shoulders turn. Close enough to see who is looking at the stranded RIB and who is looking past it toward USS Gonzalez. Close enough for every second to matter more than every system on both ships. On the mothership, men shifted into firing positions. 1 RPG came up onto a shoulder. 2 AK-47s were braced hard along the rail. The two attack boats kept widening the geometry, one dragging left of the battle space, the other holding farther out to stretch the response. 3 contacts, 3 angles, 1 disabled friendly boat sitting in the middle of all of it. Inside CIC, there was no clean solution. Mark 45 could not solve this. VLS could not solve this. Sea-Wiz could not solve this. At this range, with a drifting RIB and 5 sailors exposed on open water, the answer came down to firing lanes, voice coordination, and machine guns. Gonzalez took one sector. Cape St. George took the other. Nobody fired through the RIB's quadrant. The order moved fast. Engage the mothership. Watch your arcs. Watch the RIB. The .50 caliber gunners stepped onto their mounts in open air. No armor worth trusting. No time worth wasting. The RIB crew stayed low. M16S up, still dead in the water, still directly inside the worst possible patch of sea. Then both ships opened fire. The sound was heavy and rhythmic. Not a rifle crack, a repeated blunt force hammering that rolled across the surface. The first bursts from USS Gonzalez walked across the waterline and struck low into the mothership's hull. Cape St. George hit from a different angle almost immediately after. Fiberglass shattered. Wood frames broke apart. The engine housing erupted into smoke and fragments. At around 210 yards, a tracer from a .50 caliber punched into a fuel drum strapped near mid-deck. The flash was instant. Then the flames spread. Then the fire found the gasoline stores meant for the attack boats. The main explosion hit a heartbeat later. A hard orange fireball lifted out of the hull and pushed a column of black smoke straight into the morning air. Burning fuel sprayed across the deck. Metal, splinters, and debris kicked outward over the water. In less than 10 seconds, the mothership was no longer an attacking platform. It was a burning wreck. And just like that, the center of the pirate assault disappeared. 9:13 a.m. Gulf of Aden. The fire did not end the fight. It changed the math. For the 2 attack boats still on the water, the burning mothership was not just a loss, it was the collapse of everything behind the attack. Fuel, food, navigation gear, extra ammunition, range back to the Somali coast. All of it was going up in black smoke less than 400 meters away. For a few seconds, both boats seemed to hesitate. Not turn yet, not surrender yet, just hang there in the shock of it. One boat was still off the port side of the battle space at roughly 340 meters. The other sat farther wide, closer to 390. Their gasoline engines were still running. Their weapons were still visible, but the confidence was gone. Above them, the MH-60 Seahawk kept orbiting and feeding positions down to CIC. On the decks of USS Gonzalez and USS Cape St. George, the .50 caliber mounts stayed trained and ready. The barrels were hot. The sectors were still locked. No one was guessing now. In the stranded RIB, the boarding team had not moved far at all, but the pressure on them had shifted. Minutes earlier, they were sitting in the direct path of an armed approach. Now they were watching the surviving boats measure a fight they could no longer win. The truth was simple. Without the mothership, those smaller boats were operating on borrowed time. Their effective range was counted in tens of miles, not hundreds. Their support base had just turned into a floating furnace. And directly ahead of them were 2 U.S. warships with overlapping guns, stable firing lanes, and a tactical picture getting clearer by the second. By 09:15 hours, one attack boat began to slow first. The other followed a moment later. The assault had not ended because someone talked them out of it. It ended because their exit disappeared in fire. 9:18 a.m. Gulf of Aden. The weapons started to go down, first on the nearer attack boat, then on the second one a few seconds later. Hands came up. Rifles were lowered. Movement changed from attack posture to survival. By the time both boats were fully under control, the fight that had looked seconds away from disaster was over. Roughly 12 pirates were taken alive. Men who had closed on 2 U.S. warships thinking speed, angles, and surprise would carry them through. Now they were being pulled into custody under the guns of USS Gonzalez and USS Cape St. George, with the smoke of their destroyed mothership still hanging over the water. And this is where the story turns. Because the strangest part was not how much force the U.S. Navy had on scene. It was how little of that force could actually solve the problem at the critical moment. MK-45 was there. VLS was there. Sea-Wiz was there. Radar, tracking, combat systems, millions upon millions of dollars in hardware. And at the range where the decision had to be made, none of it was the clean answer. The real solution came from .50 caliber mounts. M16S and a disabled RIB, voice coordination over the net. Disciplined firing sectors measured in degrees, not miles. That was the hard truth of the engagement. For all the technology on both ships, the result came down to timing, control, and men making the right call in less than a minute. 9:26 a.m. Gulf of Aden. The water was settling again. Smoke still hung above the wreck. The fire was lower now, but not gone. The RIB was finally being secured. The attack boats were under control. And in less than 35 minutes, a routine intercept had turned into a close-range fight that could have gone wrong in 10 different ways. To me, that is the part that stays with you. Not just the explosion, not just the gunfire, but how fast the entire situation narrowed down to one brutal fact. When the RIB lost power, every clean option disappeared. Wait too long, and the first RPG could hit 5 exposed sailors in open water. Fire too early, and one bad angle could send rounds into your own people. That is not a tactical diagram anymore. That is command pressure in its rawest form. And the outcome says something important. All the major systems were there. Mark 45, VLS, CIWS, radar, tracking, networks. But when the range collapsed under 300 yards, the fight belonged to judgment, discipline, and controlled fire from .50 caliber mounts and M16s. My view is simple. The decisive advantage was not technology by itself. It was the ability to stay controlled when the margin for error was measured in seconds and a few degrees of bearing. So what do you think? If you were making that call on USS Gonzales, would you engage on hostile intent? Or would you wait for a clear hostile act? And in your view, what mattered most here? Leadership, training, or pure timing?